بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome, I'm Badruddin Muhammad and you're watching the English news program on Somaliland National Television. Here are the main points making headlines. Somaliland Minister of Agriculture, accompanied with the Director General of the Ministry of Agriculture, spent a visit to Beroto farmers in Dalmarin region. Sports material is donated to the Gabile Sports Clubs by the Minister of Education and Higher Studies. Pakistan's Army Chief hands over power Ashfaq Kayani to Rahil Sharif. Somaliland Minister of Agriculture Professor Farah Elmi Gedole, accompanied with the Director General of the Ministry of Agriculture, took a work-related trip to the Dalmarin region. The Minister of Agriculture, Farah Elmi Godole, also visited Beroto farmers. The community of Beroto farmers provided a report about the situation in those areas to the Minister and his delegation team. The Minister of Agriculture and the Director General of the Ministry of Agriculture spoke to the community of Beroto farmers and praised for their efforts on different cultivations. The Minister of Agriculture, Farah Elmi Godole, thanked to ADO and ISF local organizations for their funding projects implementing in Beroto farmers. The Minister urged to the community of Beroto to take advantages of this project funded by the ADO and ISF. The Minister of Education and Higher Studies, Samsam Amdi Adam, donated a sports materials to the Gabile Sports Clubs in the region. The Minister of Education and Higher Studies, Samsam Abdi Adan, donated a sports materials to the Gabile Sports Clubs in the region. The Minister, accompanied with the Chairman of Somaliland National Examination Board, Daoud Ahmed Farah, the delegation of the Minister, received by the regional and local authorities. The ceremonial event was held in the Gabile playground of football for Sarah A and P clubs. The Minister of Education and Higher Studies, Samsam Abdi Adam, handed over a donation of sports equipment to 28 football clubs. The Minister spoke to the community of Gabile and she told that the Ministry of Education would like to empower regional sports team in terms of capacity and skills. The Governor of Gabile region thanked to the Minister for her assistance to the sports clubs. The Mayor of Gabile City, Shuaib, also spoke in the event and he pledged that they are planning to build several playgrounds for the youth of sports. The National Level Committee, appointed by the President of Somaliland, Ahmed Mohamed Mahmoud Silayo, are continuing the fundraising activities for the Erigafo to Burho Road construction. The National Level Committee, appointed by the President of Somaliland, is continuing the fundraising activities for the Erigafo to Burho Road construction. The committee delegation, headed by the Finance Minister of State Osman Sahaddin Adani, visited to Bristol City. Before they departed from London, the committee met with members of British Parliament and the committee was hosted by the British members of Parliament in the British Parliament House. The committee presented to the members of British Parliament the ongoing developmental projects implemented by the Government of Somaliland and its citizens. You are still watching the English news program on Somaliland National Television, the only Somali-speaking channel with an English news program. And now for our international headlines in detail. Pakistan's Army Chief hands over power Ashfaq Kayani to Rahil Sharif. Mohammed Salim has this report.
General Professor Ashfaq Kayani, who pushed the Pakistani Taliban out of the Swat Valley, has formally retired after 6 years as Pakistan's Chief of Army Staff. He passed the baton at a ceremony in Islamabad on Friday to General Rahil Sharif, who formally became the head of the South Asian nation's military. The military is Pakistan's best defended and most influential institution and has controlled the coup-prone nation for more than half of its 66-year history. Kayani took office in 2007 after being appointed by the former military ruler General Pervez Musharraf. Upon taking the job, he frequently traveled to conflict areas to meet his men who were fighting and dying in large numbers. But like his predecessor, he also struggled to counter the threats of armed groups in the country's lawless tribal areas. Military analysts say this led Kayani to focus on what he saw as the true enemy of the nation, In a speech earlier this year, he did not name India, a country it has fought 3 wars with, as the only threat to Pakistan. Today we are faced with internal as well as external challenges. The problems on our international battlefront require our special attention because they pose a great threat to every Pakistani, he said. Under Kayani, the country faced its most significant threat in years. In 2009, a faction of the Pakistani Taliban had taken control of the northern Swat region. In response, Kayani launched the defining military operation of his career. Under his supervision, the Taliban was driven back into the remote tribal areas. But Kayani's popularity quickly sank in 2011. That year began with the killing of 2 Pakistanis in the eastern city of Lahore by Ramon Davis, a CIA security contractor, and ended with an accidental airstrike by US-led forces on a Pakistani border post that killed 24 soldiers. Between those 2 crises was Kayani's greatest perceived failing, the Osama bin Laden raid. Not because of the Pakistani army failed to find the world's most wanted man, but because of the embarrassment caused when the US military launched its raid on Pakistani soil without Pakistan's knowledge. Unilateral action sparked widespread anti-American protest, and the military faced rare public criticism directed mainly at Kayani. He helped end the resulting tensions with Washington by making compromises with US military leaders.
UN urges support for Syrian refugee children. Mohammed Salim has this report.
The UN has given warning that hundreds of thousands of Syrian refugee children are vulnerable in their new homes, exposed to dangerous exploitation and at risk of missing out on an education. A report published by the UN Refugee Agency UNHCR says children as young as 7 have to work to provide for their families. According to the study, children represent 52% of the total Syrian refugee population, which now exceeds 2.2 million, and 75% of them are under the age of 12. This is the moment for the international community to fully understand that the support provided to the countries of the region needs to be strongly enhanced, needs to be really massive, because there is a risk for the asylum space if that doesn't happen, Antonio Guterres, the UN High Commissioner for Refugees, says. The UNHCR report found that a majority of the refugee children live in Syria's neighboring countries, with Jordan and Lebanon combined hosting more than 60%. As of 31st October 2013, 291,238 Syrian refugee children were living in Jordan, and another 385,000 in Lebanon. The turmoil in Syria has torn families apart, with more than 3,700 children in Jordan and Lebanon living without one or both of their parents, or with no adult caregivers at all. By the end of September 2013, UNHCR registered 2,440 unaccompanied or separated children in Lebanon and 1,320 in Jordan. In some cases, the parents have died, been detained, or sent their children into exile alone out of fear for their safety. Another disturbing symptom of the crisis is the vast number of babies born in exile who do not have birth certificates. A recent UNHCR survey on birth registration in Lebanon revealed that 77% of 781 refugee infants sampled did not have an official birth certificate. Between January and mid-October 2013, only 68 certificates were issued to babies born in Sa'at-Tariqam, Jordan. A grave consequence of the conflict is that a generation is growing up without a formal education. More than half of all school-age Syrian children in Jordan and Lebanon are not in school. In Lebanon, it's estimated that up to 200,000 school-age Syrian refugee children should remain out of school at the end of the year.
That is the end of our news. Until next time, fi amanillah.